Okay, so what we have here is two generations of the BMW 3 Series. We have the E46, which is mid-year 1999 up to 06. We have the E90, which is 2006, late 2006, all the way up until 2012, I believe. I have to research that and make sure. A side-by-side comparison, at a quick look, the E90 looks bigger, but then as you look around it, you're like, yeah, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not. You get to looking at them side by side. So as a quick rundown, we're going to start with the E46. We have some specs, not specs we looked up, specs we actually have measured and got from the car itself. There's so many variables of E90 and E46. We had to find out what these exact ones were so we could actually compare them. So what we have here, the E46, we have a horsepower rating of 168. Now this is an M62 TU, M52 TU, I apologize. M52 TU is old school double vanos. Like I said, 168. M54 could be upwards of 200 horsepower, depends on exactly what year and model and all that nonsense. We'll go ahead and run down through here. That is up against 231 for the E90, for this E90, and that's a 328xi. 231 doesn't sound like a lot of horsepower for some reason. I guess with the variable valve timing in this car, it feels twice as powerful as the E46 does for whatever reason. So we're gonna go on the list here, move on. We have 68 wide for the E46 in the front. That is fender to fender. That was done with the tape measure and not from the internet. On the front of the E90, we have 64 wide. So the E90 is actually 4 inches skinnier than the E46 in the front. Now, in the rear, the E90 is also 64 wide in the rear. Now, the E46 narrows down to only 61 wide in the rear. So the E46 is actually more narrow in the rear than it is in the front, which kind of coincides with just taking a look at the car itself. You can kind of see that there and analyze that yourself. Overall height, the E46 is 53 inches tall from the ground up. That is the non-M suspension. The M suspension on either car is going to be a little bit lower. So yeah, 53 tall, and the E90 is only 54 tall in this configuration. And if you don't see the cars right next to each other, you only assume the E90 is a massive car. But side by side, it really is not that big of a car at all. And we're going to go ahead and run down the list here. We have gross vehicle weight. Gross vehicle weight is the car itself and everything at full capacity. So the maximum amount of humans in it, full tank of gas, you know, the full weight of the vehicle and everything it is supposed to be able to carry. The gross vehicle weight on this E46 is 4,292. So 4,292 pounds. That's coming from the door sill of the car itself. On the E90, it is 4,685. So the E90 is a little bit heavier. I'm sure it can also carry a little more cargo in it, but overall, they're not as far apart as what you would think. You would think the E90 would be tremendously heavier. Now, when we go up to a 5 Series, those are definitely a lot heavier, and that reflects that when you drive the car, you can definitely tell that. Okay, so next up we're doing a test drive. We're going to go and test drive this E46 first. And we're going to compare to the creature comforts and the drivability to the E90. Okay, so the E46, right away I could tell from driving the E90 earlier today to the store, getting in this thing, driving this, E46 is definitely a lot smaller car on the inside. A lot more road noise And some of that could just be this car. This car has some worn tires in the rear. These mics will probably pick that noise up. Overall handling, a little difficult to tell. This thing actually has a set of 18-inch wheels on it. That's going to affect the handling and ride quality just a little bit. From driving E46s my whole entire life, the E46 is a rougher riding car. Now, inside build quality, E46 is a lot older. It's a little harder to compare that. The build quality on E46 is a little bit, I would say dash and console and seats is about the same as E90. They definitely came a long way since the E46. On the headliner, you don't have the material coming off the B pillars and A pillars like you do on the E46 as the E90. So, you know, I don't know. The E90 is just a newer car. They both share the same, very similar transmission. The all-wheel drive E90 has a GM box in it, a 5-speed GM box. This E46 also has a 5-speed GM box in it. And they do ship the same. Later years, different makes and models can have the ZF box also. If this E46 is 1 year newer, it would have the 5HP 19. If the E90 was not all-wheel drive, it would have the 6HP 19, which is basically just a 6-speed version of that. So yeah, overall not bad. Now, engine reliability, M54, man, the M54 that the E39, E53, E46 share, it's I'm gonna piss some of you guys off by saying this. It's rickety. It really is rickety. But in the trade-off of that, parts are very cheap to buy for the M54 versus where the E90 N52 parts are still expensive. So just to be clear, the N54 parts, the engine itself, the M54 and M52 TU share many of the same parts. It's pretty much the same engine. On the 3.0 M54, it does have electronic throttle body and a bigger throttle body, and bigger throttle body boots and a bigger DISA. And that sounds very confusing to you guys that don't know the cars very well. The guys that do know the cars very well know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, overall, E46s, you guys are looking to buy one of these, they're cheap. They're really cheap. If you can't go the direction of the E90, you know, average sale for E90 starts at around $5,000. It goes up. The average semi-broken sell of the E46 is about $1,000 to $3,000. Super mint E46, $3,500. So I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on it. Let's get back to the house. Let's jump in that E90, and you can probably tell on the mics it's a lot different beast. Okay, so we're in the E90. You can already hear it's quite a bit quieter, more quiet. It's a proper word for that. It's a lot more refined to drive. It's a lot quiet. I can't say a lot quieter engine noise. You hear the engine about the same. The N52 is just a little bit louder of an engine, I say, than the M52 or M54 overall. There's a lot more stuff on it to make noise with the variable valve timing motor and that third camshaft or eccentric shaft, and just a lot more stuff to it. Now, they do have a lot more insulation on this car all around, and it is a lot nicer car. There's a little more room in it as far as relation to your butt to the console, to the door, a little more width in it. It does have its quirks. In my personal opinion, the E90 is more reliable in general. Now, that's a little bit biased because these cars are a lot newer, and obviously a newer car is going to be more reliable. The E46s are plagued with old brittle plastic and a lot of problems resulting from that. Now, an E90 has a lot of the same plastic, a lot of the same connections, but they're newer, so you don't have near the issue with it. So I don't know. I mean, it's, in my opinion, what deters me from buying a lot of E46s is that damn subframe problem. E46 has a real horrible situation with the rear subframe cracking. That makes those cars not fixable. I mean, you could fix them, but good lord. E90 doesn't really have anything like that. It has some expensive engine parts, but it's nothing you can't take care of. So that's my opinion of these two cars. A lot of you guys are gonna ask, you know, there's E36 sitting there on your property. Why didn't you do a review of that? That car doesn't run. It's a parts car. We're heading back there right now. We'll shoot you a few seconds of video of that just to show you some of the quick differences of it. And that E36 is a lot different machine. A lot different. Okay, we'll shoot a few seconds of this E36. I'm not by any stretch saying E36 is a bad car. I like E36s. They just are a lot more dated. The car is a lot more square, as you can see here. And especially from the rear, I guess maybe it's not as attractive. It does have a Ron Paul sticker on it. It's kind of odd. But, you know, it's just kind of one of those cars. It's just very dated. But when it comes down to it, is this car more reliable than E46? Probably. With M50 or M52, they seem to be generally more reliable. And as funny as it may seem, they actually make more power and are available to make more power just with simple modifications. But enough of the E36. As far as the E90 goes on the inside, you can see there is quite a bit of room here. And even in the back seat, there's a jug of transmission fluid. You got to have that. I mean, if you have a BMW, you have to have a jug of that sitting around, don't you? And a Burger King bag from another day. But you can see there isn't much room on this side. The seat, the driver's seat is all the way back because I'm so tall. On the passenger side, there is quite a bit of room. I mean, you could actually fit an adult in here, in the back of here, without much effort at all. As far as the steering wheel and stuff goes, these cars, that's gonna buzz if I do that. These cars are very similar. As far as the wheel goes, you could buy the sport wheel on the E46 and get the same effect out of it. And then as far as the gauges go, again, very similar. A little screen in the middle of this one tells you a little more information. And then you can see here, the nav's not bad. I mean, obviously it's in 2007. It's slightly outdated, but you can make it go full screen. And the colors aren't bad. Overall, it's not bad. The controls basically do share the same, very similar controls to the E46. There is a few differences, but overall, as far as creature comforts, this one is pretty much the same. I do think the dash looks a lot better in these. On a side note, you guys buying a wrecked E90, the whole dash is different for the nav than without the nav. Without the nav, doesn't even have the second hump at all. It's just flat, straight across. And you can see here in the E46, it's not a bad space. This one has the mechanical seats. I actually like that. Less room for things to go bad, things to go wrong, and everything else does look pretty similar. As far as all the dash and everything goes, it does have a very small readout to kind of tell you a little bit about what's going on. It also has a picture of the car to tell you a little more if you have a light out, the doors are open, so forth. As far as the center console, you can see it's not that much different than the E90. Now up here on the dash, try to shade the camera a little bit for you, it's just flat on top. Of course, this doesn't have nav, so there might be a trait of that. As far as the center console buttons go, this one had that broken piece around that button for some reason. They're not that much different. I would say overall about the same. We have our cowling pieces in here off of this. Now, this has the old school wheel. This has the same wheel as the E36. These years, actually, I think E36 still have buttons on the side. The other E46 I have sitting up there has a sport wheel. Looks pretty much identical to the E90 wheel. Now, as far as backseat room, it's really funny. This looks like it almost has a little more room than the E90, but I'm going to say it's very similar. Short of all the seats being slightly wider, the inside of the car is slightly wider with a little more room. That does give it a feel that the car itself is much, much bigger. But, you know, as we just figured out, it really, truly is not. So that's pretty much it for a little comparison here. I'm kind of like a little baby deer when it comes to doing this stuff. The first time you do a review like this, everything's kind of very shaky, searching for words. I apologize for that, but we will get better. This channel is probably going to take a little bit of a turn here, and I would like to start doing a little traveling and getting some more cars to shoot for you guys. But we got to work on our delivery just a little bit and get a little more comfortable with this format. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you like my comparison, and you have a good day.